So I thought I would fill in just a little bit of space with a color. This is my illustrated journal for the week, and I have been using black with a dip pen, but I thought I would use a color today. So I'm going to see how this is diamine blood orange, and I am using the maru nib. So I'm just going to fill in the background with some simple hatching. See how it holds, how it works. Move our water out of the way just a little bit. And let's see. Maru is fairly scratchy, which I have talked about now. Sort of put myself off of it a little bit last weekend because I talked about the scratch and then it got to me. Listening to it back on the video got to me. It doesn't bother me as much using it, but somehow in my head I ran to the Zebra G. So this ink does seem to hold. Hatching is not obviously anything super fine, but it's a very mindful process and a wonderful way just to see ink go onto the page. This is blood orange, and so it is a little dark, a little rusty. I might throw some habanero in with this and see how the color feels. Pretty satisfying. Usually I fill in bits of color around my illustrations all week long, and for some reason this week I just kept doing the black and white. Thought I would add some color in on the last day, Saturday, last day of the week. Tend to finish these spreads. You can see how fine the maru nib is because you can go in between a line like that and still get a straight line without overlapping. As long as you can see it, as long as your eyes are good enough to see where that line goes, you can get some really, really tight line work in. And as I said, it doesn't matter for this background fill-in, but all of the drawing here was done. It's a very simple drawing. It's not a real bird. It's a little figurine. That was done with Zebra G, and you can just tell by looking that the line work is thicker, bigger, broader. Start to get antsy as you get towards this end. You're sort of ready for it, ready for the space to close up. But you still go slow and mindful. Just fill in a little bit, see some of this darkened color. It's a beautiful color when you get the tone of it. You see that happening? It oranges up a little bit. This is a good experiment because I still wasn't sure if fountain pen ink would work or how well it would work. A few of them I've tried have actually seemed too runny or too thin to hold nicely for dip pen. Most of them have seemed to work okay. Maybe that they work better with maru. I don't know that yet. This might be the first maru I've done with color. I'm not positive. If you are working on your own drawing today, hope you are gearing up for a good Saturday or whatever day you hear this. I have been reviewing science fiction fantasy books, trying to figure out what to buy with a little bit of credit. There's so many wonderful choices and so many diverging opinions. And every time I think, oh, I found something new that might be perfect, then I read a whole bunch of reviews that change my mind or make me think it might not be a good use of the credit. And I just want to try to buy something that I will want to have long term. So I've almost filled in this space with a first pass. It really doesn't even need more than that. It's really all about how mindful it feels, and let's get these a little finer, and how much tone I bring into it. Sometimes I like it lighter, sometimes I like it darker. I tend to overfill because I just enjoy watching the ink flow and spread. And as you can see, my hatching is not perfectly parallel here either, which, yes, if I was really hatching for shadow or volume or form would matter, but just here in the background, I think that's okay. I'm not going to worry about that. Might actually darken in just the side here under the breast of this bird. Did you love that? I love that sound. Oh, a little bit here. Sometimes you overlook. If you're not careful, you'll overlook a blank spot. And that's a good one to go ahead and fill. I don't have a microphone as close as usual, so might not be able to hear these wonderful sounds today. I should have rotated my book so that I can come down with a more controlled line. That's okay. You'll find as you hatch a lot that you have different control depending on the angle of your hand to the paper. You can see how that just fills in. Maru is doing its thing here. And if I want, I can come back. Give this sweet little bird a little bit of extra lift. And come down here and for sure get this under part a little darker. My tip is not getting the ink. There, now we got it. Now we got it. I'm going to go ahead and fill this whole side in. Again, that's the shift in angle. When I get it at the right angle, which is technically the right angle for my hand even, I'm getting much better flow. Nice. Simple fill-in. Looks a little browner than I would expect. Actually, you might want to, well, got a little bit there. Let's see. Hate to waste that little bit that's left. Let's shake some of it back. All right. This is the best. Watch. It's magic. So simple. Oh my goodness, I splashed onto my page and trying to show that. See that? Oh, don't get all upset. It's just a little bit of water. I think I will layer a little habanero over top. This blood orange is a little dark in that for me. It's definitely a colder tone than I would normally use. And it may not work at all to layer over top, but move my coffee out of the way. I don't have much to lose. Let's see. Cleaned and dried my nib. Let's just see what kind of color we can get over top. Oh yeah, that's a lot lighter. And this is definitely got some saturation on the first few passes. I was going to say it feels thinner, but it seems to hold. What are your favorite inks for using dip pen? Especially if you do use fountain pen ink. I have a lot of fountain pen ink. I have a lot of fountain pens. Dip pen is an experiment, and I like the versatility of being able to use the same inks. You might notice I have my grip pushed back, and that is because I was trying to dip into sample bottles, and pushing that back did help. Helps me get into that smaller opening. Very interesting how ink fills and how hatching, cross-hatching, basic line work fills in a space like this. Adds tone and, in this case, warmth. It's going to warm it up. You have to figure this bird is actually yellow, and when you do it in black and white intentionally, you lose some of that softness and warmth that you might know is there. Just going to get right in there in that beak. And I could have done this in full lines all the way across, breaking it up just a little bit. Not a bad idea. This bird was sitting in front of a window when I snapped this photo. You can play with what your hatching does. And once again, I am really enjoying this maru and wondering why last weekend I got so off on it. I'm going to just fill in. I think I wanted to use a different color here, but I think I'll just go ahead. I want to just fill in some of the space around this. You do have to really be careful with ink in an illustrated journal that when you turn your pages, start working on the next page, you don't get a lot of transfer underneath. I'm having a real problem with transfer. I opened a page this morning and there's definitely transfer, especially between portraits that I've done, and that's frustrating. Even this up here where that drop of water happened, this ink is waterproof, and I'm surprised that there was any color lift, even onto the napkin. It lifted, and that actually really surprises me. I don't use watercolor, but I'm pretty sure the black is waterproof. Although I have also noticed that when my colored inks get near the black, there is some lift and some mix, and that has caused a little bit of messiness at times. So maybe this ink is not as waterproof as I thought. Again, since I don't use watercolor, it hasn't been an issue, but definitely have seen some odd behavior near the bottle of that ink, near the bottom of the bottle of that ink. So I feel like maybe I'm using more ink with this process. I thought that I might use less. I don't know why I thought that, but this is just rhythmic and soothing, and this is obviously just a simple little glass. It's not supposed to be a photo. It's not supposed to be super even interesting. It meant something and it fulfills a prompt from Illustrate Your Week. But the filling of space around it is just a process that I find balancing and soothing and rewarding and satisfying. So I was talking about those books, been looking at a whole bunch of them, and I thought I was on the path of something amazing with some fairy tale retellings, which was a little bit of a surprise. I didn't think that that would necessarily draw my attention, but I started by looking at Uprooted and Spinning Silver, but I quickly kept seeing reference to The Bear and the Nightingale, and so I started looking at those. I downloaded a sample, started reading the sample, and found it really intriguing. And the word that keeps getting used is it's very atmospheric, and I find that an interesting word. I don't know that I have thought about books before that way or heard books described that way, but there is that feeling for me, just reading the little bit I've read, there's a feeling of sort of getting sucked into it and like you're cloaked somehow in this heavy, cold story and environment. You feel like it has sort of pulled you in. And I thought I might get that first one. I've seen mixed reviews now. Unfortunately, the Kindle version, even though I'm using credit, the Kindle version is far more expensive than the book. Now, I don't plan to buy the book. I can check it out from the library for free anyway. So I have continued to look. Another one I'm now considering, very different, is I think it's Robin Hobbs, and it's the Farseer trilogy. But people who love this set of books talk about then reading all of them. There are several, I think, trilogies all set in the same space. And I just don't know. I'm so torn. My credit expires today or tomorrow, and so it will already be expired if this little clip ever goes live. I'll have to tell you later what I choose. I'm going to fill this bottom in with blue, and I think I will just leave this. I love this little wonky part here that I left with the pen. Definitely just a fun non sequitur almost. Sometimes I go in because I am so attached to just filling the space. Go in and just add some little knobs, nubbins. And I might do that all the way around this piece. And depending on how I feel, I might go ahead and fill that in. I might do a full 4-pass. Which is a way to get almost a solid look, but not really, and I like it. So I might continue to do that just as I watch TV or listen to a book. And there are all kinds of ways you can just personalize your pages and fill space and bring in color and find yourself soothed by the process. So next time you should bring your own work and sit and draw, or ink or letter. Quotes are great for dip pen and for fountain pen and for colored inks and for filling space in and around. I've left this whole column here because I'm going to fill this in with words. I just slung ink. Now see, I have not had any issue with dripping, but I was talking with my hands and I did just sling that. That is not typical for me with the dip pen, at least. I know a lot of people talk about drips. That actually was a motion of my hands that did that. It was pointing at that empty space. So, well, I guess that is enough. My phone is probably out of space.